is Chargers offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi holding the offense back. Today we are playing buy or sell with the Chargers' biggest storylines and overreactions from week 1.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers for 6 seasons now, but we're heading into our 5th season as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you guys for making us your first listen today. And to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and follow the show for free on all platforms, wherever you get your podcast from. But first, you can only listen to today's podcast if your team is 1-0 after 1 week. Today, we are playing a little bit of buy or sell as we kind of figure out what we're going to do on these Tuesdays. We're going to try some things out, but I'm very excited about the conversation surrounding how much Joe Lombardi is holding this Chargers offense back, or if he is at all, when the Chargers had a top 5 offense in 2021, and if Justin Herbert showed exactly why on Sunday he should be considered in the MVP conversation. But we have more buy or sell than that, because we're talking about if the Chargers offense will be fine without Keenan Allen. That's a big question. And if the Chargers maybe solved their problem at right tackle, a problem for how many years now, right? But we'll also get into if we are buying the Chargers run defense being totally fixed after how bad it was in 2021. But today's episode of Locked On Chargers is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is your daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than the Prize Picks projections, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. So, David, I think this is easily the most discussed thing on Chargers Twitter. And I mean, something that has disgusted, it seems like, a lot of Chargers fans. And that was the way the Chargers offense looked, especially late in the game. I mean, it's hard to find too many things wrong with it. The first few drives in the first drive of the second half when the Chargers are putting up 24 points, right? Seemingly pretty easily. And that was with not converting a 4th down conversion in that span. But we all know how conservative it got late. And Joe Lombardi talked about it a little bit, but we're playing buy or sell, David. So are you buying or selling the fact that Joe Lombardi is holding the Chargers offense back?
I'm going to buy it. I do think that Joe Lombardi is holding the Chargers offense back, and it's because this is a problem that we've seen dating back to last season with a lot of the play calling that we were very unsure about, especially on early downs. We just were expecting Joe Lombardi and Justin Herbert to be more aggressive on early downs, and that just did not happen. It seemed like there was a lot more running in those early situations than we would have liked, and it turned into some uneven offensive performances, even with an overall top 5 offense. You just look at Justin Herbert and what he is capable of doing, the throws that he's able to make, and you say, why can't we do this more? Why aren't we dialing up more deep shots? And we haven't really seen that. And hey, it's still early, so I'm not completely buying it, but I am definitely on the road to buying that. And Joe Lombardi even admitted, he said, hey, I probably got a little bit too conservative there towards the end of the game, and I didn't really like the way that looked. So hopefully that ability to recognize, those type of mistakes there and correct those moving forward, we'll see a different, more aggressive Chargers offense.
Well, so I mean, for your answer specifically, I don't think it was the whole game. That's what I'm trying to get to here, right? Like, I felt like early in the game, the Chargers were taking shots. They took a shot to Keenan Allen on a big play, right? DeAndre Carter had a big touchdown as well. He had a 30-yard game besides that touchdown where they took a shot to him. They had 6 plays of 19 or more, or 18 or more yards in this game before it got super conservative, and that's only on passing plays for the Chargers. So, like, I thought the offense looked exceptionally good early. I thought we saw them pushing the ball at least further down the field than we had seen in the past. I mean, Justin Herbert averaged 8.2 yards per attempt. Like, you don't get that by throwing the ball just around the line of scrimmage. I think that the pieces they had looked like they fit a lot better. Like, Gerald Everett looks much more fit for the role than someone like Jared Cook does, right? But I'm not absolving everything else, because I did think late in the game they did get way too conservative, and this is what he said about it. I think if you pay attention to how the defense is playing, we felt like we were playing pretty well. I was probably watching some of those early games and seeing some teams come back, and that kind of weighs on your mind. But obviously the narrative is told after it's all done. If we completed a couple of those passes or kept those drives going, you would have felt like you did it just right. We have faith in the offensive line. I think that we're going to grow and continue to be good there. Immediately after the game, I did feel like I got a little conservative there and wished I would have made a couple of different calls, but it worked out. Thank God. So thank God is right, Joe Lombardi. And he's right to some extent, right? I mean, you miss a field goal, right? So 27 points feels a little better than 24 points, obviously. But
Yeah.
the reason you didn't get a closer field goal, maybe a more makeable field goal, was potentially because of how conservative you were right before that, right? Trying to capitalize on a turnover of your own. If Trey McKitty doesn't drop a pass on the goal line, right? Maybe they convert, maybe they go down, score points, maybe things feel differently. But just the type of plays they ran, like, yeah, every coach can be like, yeah, well, I felt like that running play was going to go for 15 yards, right? It's like you also have to know how your rushing attack has been working. And so to go with those plays, especially on early downs late in the games, right? Not as much early in the game. I thought it was like, okay, yeah, I mean, you could hope those runs are going to go for first yards, but running 2 straight runs in a row is definitely too conservative. It's nice that he's admitting it. It's nice that he's out here in front of it saying, okay, hey, I know I was a little bit conservative, because at this point, Joe Lombardi's here to stay. So I am buying it a little bit that he's holding Justin Herbert back, but I do think it is a little bit overblown when you have 3 receivers who are averaging over 16 and a half yards per catch in this game, and all of them had at least 3 catches. It wasn't like one catch for 17 yards. So I did think a little bit that those guys were making some big plays, especially early on, but there is definitely some reason to worry about how that game ended for sure.
Yeah, honestly, I just think it sticks in your mind more because it happened at the end of the game, right?
Totally.
You know, you just expect this high-powered Chargers offense to put their foot on the opponent's throat and twist it and end it and put the game away. That's what you
100%.
expect to see. That's what this offense is capable of doing. So when it doesn't happen and you kind of, play not to lose and you don't play to actually just completely win the football game, that's where the frustrations, I think, come into play. So I understand and I agree with you. I think in the beginning of the game, they were flowing, they were getting the ball out, they were taking some shots. But that definitely quelled towards the end of the game. They got very conservative. They ran, several plays back to back, several running plays back to back. And it just felt like, oh no, the Chargers are going to let this one slip away instead of just ending the game when they had the opportunity to.
Yeah, I definitely think like this is a conversation we'll have on other weeks, I'm sure, but like it is something to monitor. You have to hope
Yeah.
he evolves from it, right? But it could be holding Justin Herbert back specifically, right? And I think that's the point. But Justin Herbert also was outrageous. And I mean, Joe Lombardi does deserve a little bit of credit there for when he looked really good. But it was so many crazy throws. The touchdown to, DeAndre Carter was nuts. The window he fit the Gerald Everett touchdown in was nuts. Keenan Allen, the throw to him
The
was
throw to Keenan Allen
disgusting.
was
Like,
ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, all those those dudes aren't open by many NFL standards, and he was still putting the ball in there. Overall, he goes right 279, 3 touchdowns, passer rating of 129.4, completes 76% of his passes. And
Adjusted
David, I
completion of
mean,
over 84%. Yeah.
right, for sure. And I mean, let's put it this way: buy or sell this. Justin Herbert showed in Week 1 why he could absolutely be the NFL MVP in 2022.
Absolutely.
Buying
I'm
it.
definitely buying that 100%. Justin Herbert going out here does not skip a beat. It just
Yeah,
the same type of this guy's going to have 4 or 5 or 6 wow throws every single game where you count on 2 or 3 fingers other quarterbacks that can make those type of throws or will even attempt those type of throws. Justin Herbert belongs in that rarefied air, and he didn't make any mistakes. He was incredible in the pocket, feeling pressure, moving around in the pocket, extending plays, throwing on the run, throwing accurately. He didn't lose the Chargers the game. He put the Chargers in great position to win the football game. Justin Herbert just showing everybody that this is not an aberration. This is not a fluke. He is as good as he looks in
yeah.
this Chargers offense, and the sky's the limit.
100%. It is, of course, with him. The sky is the limit. We know that, yeah, if he reaches his full potential, of course, he's going to be one of those guys that you think of as an MVP candidate. And he showed it. He was ridiculous. Like, it sucks for him because he's going up against guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, who just threw for 5 touchdowns and 360 yards. And the frustrating thing is, it felt like if the Chargers had kept their foot on the gas pedal, Justin Herbert could have easily gotten 360 in 5
Oh yeah,
touchdowns. He had the opportunities to do it, and that's where part of that
especially
frustration is.
if they scored off of freaking turnovers like they had many opportunities to do.
100%. I think the other thing too about Justin Herbert is everyone wanted to freak out about 15 interceptions. That dude didn't put the ball in any danger a single time and
Nope.
threw it 32 times, right? 34 times, one of those two. I mean, it was insane. Like, that dude never put the ball in danger a single time, and he was still taking shots and being aggressive when it called for it. So Justin Herbert, you start to run out of words with that dude because he is just that good. But that was only part of the biggest questions that we had, right? I think one of the biggest things on everyone's mind right now is what's going to happen with Keenan Allen, because Keenan Allen is obviously, the Chargers' best receiver. And I think he showed that in a quarter and a half on Sunday. He's still their leading receiver when the game ended, which is insane. But he is not going to be there potentially this week. I mean, I'm almost guaranteeing he's not going to be there for Thursday Night Football this week. Will the Chargers offense be fine? Buy or sell that? Or if the Chargers have solved their right tackle problem, we'll talk about projecting that. But when I am making projections, I go with one site, my favorite daily fantasy site. And of course, I'm talking about Prize Picks, where it's you versus prizepicks.com's projections. And all you have to do is go with someone like Mike Williams. Will he go over 65 yards in next game? Will we have more than 65 yards? That's where you go. You go to prizepicks.com. I think Mike Williams, spoiler alert, could be bound for a giant game this week after going almost completely, disappearing in week one. But with Prize Picks, basically, you pick 2 to 5 players, and then if they have more than what Prize Picks projections are, you win. And you can win 10 times your money on any entry. That is something that is nuts. It's one of the best things, especially with football season right now. I mean, I loved Prize Picks week 1 of the NFL. Absolutely loved it. But it's not just NFL. You can go to NBA, MLB, NHL, MMA, golf, whatever you're looking for. You can find Prize Picks there and bet against those projections. And when you're using Prize Picks, it's so much fun. And you can even have some free money since you listen to this show. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON since you listen to the show. That means if you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. So make sure you go to prizepicks.com and don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. I also need to tell you guys about something that I've been using every single day, and that is AG1 from Athletic Greens. I heard a bunch about this on the podcast, on other podcasts and stuff like that. I'd heard a lot about it. It's hard to really encapsulate everything that AG1 does for you. I mean, there's so many different benefits to it. I use it every day, but this is what it is. One delicious scoop of AG1 and you're getting 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, and much more. But a lot of people are taking, some sort of multivitamin, and it's important that you choose one with high quality ingredients. And when you're having AG1, it's lifestyle friendly, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free. The AG1 contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything. So right now, guys, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every single day. It's super easy. That's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to help look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. That's athleticgreens.com/NFL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, Dave, well, we are doing buy or sell here with the biggest storylines and overreactions from week 1. And then one thing that think maybe there's some overreaction to, I don't know, it's hard to say because he is such an important player, is Keenan Allen and what his absence is going to mean to the Chargers offense. So, David, I'll make it as simple as this. Are you buying that the Chargers offense will be fine without their star receiver, Keenan Allen?
If you would have asked me this question last year, I would have said absolutely not. There's no way they're going to crumble. But with the emergence of Josh Palmer and what DeAndre Carter has shown us here after week 1, he's going to be very, very involved in this offense. He's not just here to be a special gadget weapon. This is a guy that can really play as a wide receiver and has really garnered the trust of his quarterbacks, especially with Justin Herbert and Joshua Palmer. We've already seen him been thrust into action last year where Keenan Allen had to miss some time. He was thrust into action and he performed very, very well in that same role. I think he's just a very smooth route runner, has very strong hands, does well in the contested catch situations. I think because the Chargers have some quality depth in their wide receiver room, obviously no one is Keenan Allen. Obviously Keenan Allen is one of the best receivers in the league and has been consistently year after year after year. But these two guys together mixed in with Gerald Everett, I really love the receiving options that the Chargers have. So I am going to buy it. I do think the Chargers will be okay without Keenan Allen for a little while.
I think so too. I mean, I'm buying that they'll be fine. I mean, it's always going to hurt. There's no one that can sit here and tell me, oh, hey, the Chargers offense is going to be better or even just as good without Keenan Allen. But even if you take away Keenan Allen, if the Chargers offense without Keenan Allen is firing on all cylinders, they'd still be one of the best offenses in the league to me.
Yeah.
It also has to do with the receivers 2, 3, and 4 have to step up, right? Because DeAndre Carter was receiver 5, right? Wide receiver 5 for the most part. He had a huge preseason and training camp, mostly just training camp where he was just awesome. But it's going to have to look a lot better than this if the Chargers offense is going to be fine without Keenan Allen. Jalen Guyton, remember him? Anyone here from Jalen Guyton? 0 catches on 1 target on Sunday.
Yeah.
Josh Palmer had 3 catches for 5 yards because of that cute screenplay that they pulled out in the preseason, and he looked awesome, and he was the next best receiver, got stuff for like a negative 5-yard loss. 3 catches for 5 yards. Mike Williams, the most important one here, 2 catches for 10 yards. So Joe Lombardi did say that Josh Palmer is sliding into the Keenan Allen role of the Chargers offense, and Keenan Allen moves around a lot, but he's the Z wide receiver in the Joe Lombardi offense, so he's going to have a big role. And I trust him. This is his opportunity. We talked about it, and we said it before the season. Hey, we feel like if anyone gets hurt, this is the dude who's going to be able to step up. And if he is the guy that's called upon, he's going to have a big season. That's how I felt before the season. The one game of 3 catches and 5 yards isn't going to hold me back from that right now. I think Josh Palmer's in for big things, and I think you're going to get to see it a little bit with Keenan Allen potentially missing some time, but it is still going to hurt the Chargers offense, especially in a game like this week with the Kansas City Chiefs on Thursday night. But let's go to the offensive line, David, because the offensive line played exceptionally well, right? As an offensive line, they give up 6 pressures against Chandler Jones and Max Crosby and the rest of the Raiders pressure or pass rush, right? They give up 8 as a team. A couple of those were tight ends and running backs. It was a crazy game. And I think maybe the most surprising part is what happened with Trey Pipkins, David, because Trey Pipkins, we all knew this was the biggest spotlight issue for the Chargers. We know how bad Storm Norton was against this Raiders team in the last game of the season to potentially keep the Chargers out of the playoffs as it did. He only gave up 2 pressures in this game. He gave up 1 hurry, 1 hit, according to Pro Football Focus, but he looked good. I mean, he didn't look like he was getting absolutely overwhelmed out there. And the buy or sell was this: have the Chargers solved the right tackle issue?
I'm not buying it yet. I'm sorry.
Means you're selling it.
I am selling it here. I need a lot more time. I need more consistent performances out of Trey Pipkins before I can say, yes, the Chargers have found their right tackle of the future. This is it. He's the guy. I'm sorry. I'm just not ready to do that yet. I mean, he had a good game. I'm happy that he had a good game. The Chargers also had a very good protection plan to help Trey Pipkins out, and especially with Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett was fantastic as a receiver in this game, but also phenomenal as a blocker as well. He was used on that side, on Trey Pipkins' side, multiple times to help chip, to help block. They had a really good plan put together to really kind of ease Trey Pipkins into this game. That's something I wanted to see. That's something that we did see in this football game. So I'm happy about that. But you're going to have to show me every single game in and game out. You're going to have to put 5, 6, 7, 8 games together before I'm willing to say, yes, the Chargers have solved their right tackle situation.
100%. I'm selling it for now, but I guess as close to buying it as I've ever been, right? Like, that's kind of what it feels like. I mean, I think the great thing about this game is, first of all, he did look much improved, and the Chargers were better at that position than they were in 2021 through 1 game, which is important. We have an incredibly small sample size as we see it right now.
And against those rushers too.
But he did it against Max Crosby for the most part. So that's the point that gives you, the most respect for his game, right? The most promise in his game. I can't find the word I'm looking for, but you trust him more. That's the main thing. You trust him more than
that was the test, right? Like that was a massive test. That's $100 million pass rusher that he went up against, and he was able to stifle him for most of the game.
The dude literally led the NFL in pressures last year, and he got 2 against Trey Pipkins. So that's a huge win for the Chargers. And I think the best part of it is, like, you just saw that even with that big question mark there, first of all, I answered it week 1, but you can get through these games without right tackle being the main issue. And the Chargers protected him a bunch, not just with, the Gerald Everett's, but the play calling as well. I think that's part of the conservative nature they went to late in the games, because they knew they had those 2 guys coming off the edge at Justin Herbert, and you don't want to have that game-changing plans. Well, too bad. Just go for it anyways. But not the point. I think that did play a factor in it. And I think one of the things that's going to come along, especially for him and the rest of the offensive line, is the run blocking, because we've been hyping up this running back room. didn't really live up to the hype in week one, kind of a subpar performance for the rushing attack as a whole. So we're going to talk about, did we overhype the Chargers running back room? We're also going to get into if we're trusting this Chargers new physical run defense and how much better it played in week one against the Raiders, and much more, including, is it a bad move to cut Breiden Fehoko for the Chargers? I'm going to say yes. So we're going to get into that coming up right after this. But I do need to tell you guys about the official betting sponsor of the Locked On Chargers podcast. And I'm talking about betonline.net. BetOnline is where I was very busy with on Sunday when all of these games were happening. Just, 10 straight hours, 9 straight hours of football just straight into my blood. And I was going with BetOnline, who has the best, most creative ways to bet that you're going to find out. There are a ton of props that you can pick, a ton of fun, creative ways to get involved, and also live in-game betting, which is also a great and a must with anything you're betting with right now. But there's so many things to choose from. You can even go with player props and what they're going to do over underwise during the games, and so many other great things even outside of football, because you can go pretty much any sport, anything you want to bet on, you can bet on at betonline.net, whether that's UFC on the weekends, right? Whether that's boxing, golf, whatever, you can always bet on it with betonline.net, the best place to place your bets. But make sure you guys head to the website or use your mobile device today to learn more about the trends and the action at BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, David, well, I teased the running back room a little bit, and it was an underwhelming performance, right? Just about 2.5 yards per carry for the Chargers' new look running attack, right? And Austin Eckler didn't do great, averaged 2.6 yards per carry in this one. Not all of his fault, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Josh Kelly, I thought, looked good. Four carries, 21 yards. The burst still looked like it was there, and it was working against, first-string people, as it did against the Saints' first-team defense, in that first game. But are you selling or buying, David, that we maybe overhyped the Chargers running back room too much?
Yeah, I'm selling it. It wasn't a great performance here in the first game, but I'm not saying that this group is not going to find their stride, because I think a couple of reasons. One, we did see Josh Kelly translate, from training camp into this first regular season game, and he looked good. He looked explosive. He looked fast. He looked decisive. He seems like, hey, this is a guy who deserves to get some more carries. Sony Michel is brand new to the Chargers, only got here a couple of weeks ago, so I'm sure he's still learning the playbook, still trying to get comfortable. We didn't see anything of Isaiah Spiller because he was, nursing an injury, coming back from an injury. So I don't think we've seen what this entire running back room is capable of doing. And also, Austin Eckler didn't run the ball particularly well, but he still caught the ball very well, averaging 9 yards a catch there with Austin Eckler. So it's not just about the running ability with Austin. It's the complete game, and we know what he brings to the table. He was still a productive member of this running back room. I still just think we haven't seen the full abilities of what this room can be, but I'm not there yet.
Totally. And it's crazy. Yeah. Austin Eckler has a quiet game and he has 82 yards of total offense, right? So it's like that's your bad game and you're still accounting for that much in a game where you only average 2.6 yards per carry. You will take that. But yeah, Sony Michel, not a great first game for him. He had a couple opportunities. The blocking wasn't great in front of him. And I think that's one of the things, even though a lot of guys weren't terrible run blocking in this one, it just seemed like, and even Joe Lombardi said, like, there was just one guy on each play that wasn't quite getting to the spot he needed to. And run blocking is one of those things where it takes a little bit more time, especially for this team, first time going up against another team, right? Like Zion Johnson played great. Trey Pipkins played well. Like Corey Linsley's still a freak and is just an absolute stud baby in the middle. But like Rashawn Slater, of course, I don't even have to tell you, but it's just, it wasn't, the connectivity wasn't there for the offensive line to really kind of break off some runs. They had some chances. It didn't work out, but I'm definitely selling it right now. You definitely want to see it be more effective, but I think the hype is right there. And I think, if Sony Michel, maybe, it's Isaiah Spiller next time. We get to see a little bit of that, because that's still kind of the X factor we have to see now that the real games have started. But let's get to the other side of the ball in the Chargers run defense, because that was something that was a huge storyline, the biggest storyline maybe outside of right tackle going into this season. Only gave up 64 rushing yards in this game, David, a total kind of 180 from the last game of the season last year, where the running attack from the Raiders literally ended the Chargers season. This week, it was a lot more manageable, and the Raiders didn't really run the ball a lot, I think, because of the early success of the Chargers run defense. But are you buying that the Chargers run defense is fixed?
I'm going to say, yeah, I am buying it. And the reason why is because of kind of what Brandon Staley said. those runs look different this year. I mean, they do. They're not bursting through gigantic holes like they were last season. They're a lot more. They're making the running backs move a lot more. They're making them have to create a lot more. And the linebackers are more active stopping the run. I think we saw a decent game out of Kenneth Murray because of the guys that were in front of him and kind of eating up those blocks. That's why I am, because that looks different. That's the beef in the middle. It's noticeable. The strength in the middle from Austin Johnson and Sebastian Joseph Day is very, very clear to see when you put on the tape and you watch those guys. They're not giving up much ground. They're not allowing a lot of space for running backs to run through.
Yeah. So I'm selling it for now. I liked the way that they looked. I mean, the Raiders did average 4.9 yards per carry, right? That's not a number that you want to see. That's a very effective rushing attack. It was really good in the first half. It wasn't good in the second half. And I think it could be for a myriad of reasons. But as much as you like this 7 carries, 14 yards in the first half, you don't like 6 carries for 50 yards in the second half, right?
That's true.
Especially on back-to-back-to-back plays where they get 7, 18, and 6, right? And are just really blowing guys off the line of scrimmage. I thought part of that was Jerry Tillery, who I didn't think was good in this game. He was in, I think, because they thought the Raiders were going to be throwing more because the Raiders were down double digits. And he was getting kind of blown off the ball a little bit, was not a factor in the running game, did not record a pressure in this game, even though I thought the interior push by the Chargers defensive line as a whole was really good. Sebastian Joseph Day is the truth, right? The physicality was there. They weren't getting blown off the ball like you're talking about. It did look different in that sense. I need to see more of it. Just like I need to see more of Trey Pipkins, I need to see more of this because I also didn't really fear the Raiders rushing attack going into this game. There's a bunch of new offensive linemen, bunch of super inexperienced dudes. And they still average 4.9 yards per carry. Like a lot of that's 118-yard run that you give up, kind of boost that a little bit. And it was only 13 carries that they did it on. So you didn't let them just totally, run it 36 times like we saw the teams do against the Chargers last year. Because that was the problem. Teams would just continue to lean on that, continue to shorten the game. It wasn't that. And I am 100% buying that the Chargers defense is much improved. Totally fixed. It's going to take a little bit of time for that one. But one of the ways that I think they got worse in that aspect is the Chargers ended up waiving defensive tackle Breiden Fehoko, who was a healthy scratch in the game. He was just an inactive for the game against the Raiders, to bring back Christian Covington. And there's a couple of reasons financially why they could have done it right. Breiden Fehoko would have had to gone through waivers if they had released him right before they, when they ended up doing their final 53-man roster, as opposed to Christian Covington, who came in as a veteran. So he just was straight released, right? He didn't have to go through the waiver wire. Nobody had a chance to pick him up in that sense. Still, David, pretty confusing to me because, Breiden Fehoko, I didn't think Christian Covington was bad in training camp or the preseason when I saw him. I just thought Breiden Fehoko was significantly better than he was. So this is a head-scratching move to me. And even though it is, defensive tackle 6, or however you want to do it, like, I thought he was like the second best defensive tackle throughout training camp.
Yeah, this is one of those moves I just don't understand. I don't get it. I didn't understand why they made Breiden Fehoko inactive the first game either. I just felt like he was a guy
over at Tito Ogbonnia too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear Tito Ogbonnia's name at all in that game. I mean, did he even play? I mean, that's the thing. He was unnoticeable. And so for them to bring back Christian Covington, who did nothing in the preseason, like nothing at all, he was invisible against a lot of guys that were not going to make any NFL teams. So you were expecting a guy, a veteran, of that stature, to go out there and dominate in that situation, in that environment. And that didn't really happen. But who did take advantage of their opportunities in preseason? Breiden Fehoko. He made plays. You saw it. You saw his impact. And so to see that they waived him to sign Christian Covington, maybe it was just for the money situation. I mean, that is obviously a part of it.
Yeah.
But I don't see it if you look at these two players and you can tell me with a straight face that Christian Covington was a better player than Breiden Fehoko. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you make the move now. Like, I mean, if it is like the contract thing, I guess I get it, but like, you can't really argue it's based on production. I mean, experience-wise, yeah, Christian Covington's more experienced, but Breiden Fehoko had actual, backfield production, as in getting into the backfield and tackling guys for losses, and I mean, just looked so much better this offseason. And I mean, especially since I am selling the total fix of the Chargers run defense, like, that's not a guy that hurts you there. while you have Jerry Tillery, who got his opportunities in a more specialized role where he could get in there and rush the passer more, and he
Did
had
nothing.
zero pressures against an interior offensive line that we were hugely questioning before the game. So didn't make a lot of sense to me. Nothing against Christian Covington. I think he's fine, right? I think he was good in spots for the Chargers last season, and he probably won't see the field a ton as Breiden Fehoko was just inactive. Did wonder if the Chargers didn't like Fehoko kind of putting out the day before that. It seemed like he kind of said he wasn't going to play. Like he kind of told everyone he was inactive before he actually was inactive. He said like, "Oh, like, what are your what do you think you're going to do tomorrow?" And he's like, "Eat a bunch of popcorn," or something along those lines. But it was just
Yeah.
weird. He's such a fan favorite player. Such a good energy guy that like
Yeah,
that plus
hopefully
being
he
the
gets
better
back to the
player.
Chargers, man. Yeah.
Plus being just a competition wise, like if you want to keep the best players, it's hard to argue that when you're cutting someone like Breiden Fehoko and bring someone in like Christian Covington. It seems like it's kind of, going against that mantra. So that is a little, shallow, I guess, in some sense, but we'll see what happens. It's a long season. We'll kind of see how it goes. And if he doesn't end up in the Chargers practice squad, I'm really, really pulling for that dude to get an opportunity where he can show just how much he's improved because he looked like a really good player. One more really quickly, David. We don't have a ton of time left, but I have one more buy or sell for you, and that is Asante Samuel Jr. had a bad game. Are you buying that or selling that?
I mean, hey, he went up against Davante Adams as the best receiver in the NFL. I mean, pretty much by a mile. And yeah, I mean, if you look at the stats, 5 catches, 72 yards, definitely not great, but Davante Adams is doing that to pretty much anybody. So, I mean, yeah, I think he cut some slack to Asante, and I like the way he battled. He did get a really good pass breakup, and, he left his man in Hunter Renfrow and grabbed a phenomenal interception that, Carr was targeting Davante Adams on that play. So, I mean, hey, I think you chalk it up to going up against Davante Adams. I mean, that guy is superhuman. As you saw, the Raiders threw it to him a ton, and he had a ton of production.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it wasn't a good game, but I loved it at
No.
the same time. It was kind of a weird thing. I mean, he gave up 41 yards. In total, PFF had him giving him 9 receptions for 108 yards and a touchdown. So that is something that overall, it's hard to argue that's a good game, but you saw the moments and you also just saw the competitiveness. Like, first of all, he had the interception, which was an incredible. Like, the ball skills are 100% there. That dude has ball skills, and that tracking ability, leaving your man in coverage to go get that ball was super impressive. He had a great pass breakup on Davante Adams as well. Had good coverage on Davante Adams in the end zone on the one play he didn't give up a touchdown to Davante Adams, which he also did, and he still had pretty good coverage on that. And I think it's just you see it there, the competitive fire there, especially coming back from that concussion.
That's what
stuff
you
with all
love.
of those problems that you had last year. Like to see that dude coming back and wanting that assignment and knowing, hey, I'm probably going to get torched, but like, how am I supposed to prove I'm a really good cornerback in this league unless I go do it against someone like Davante Adams? He had some wins in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
those wins are going to be such a confidence boost for him. Yes, there were some bad moments, but I think that's going to be such a huge game in the potential growth of Asante Samuel Jr. And even in a bad game, I still felt more confident in him than I did in Michael Davis in this one. So huge on, I really am bullish on what Asante Samuel Jr. can do, especially after you get someone like JC Jackson back and he's going up against, the other team's second best receiver, or however it plays out. But that's going to do it for us today. You're going to want to be back here tomorrow because it is an extra special crossover Wednesday edition with the Locked On Chiefs podcast to talk about Thursday night football. The Chargers in prime time with a chance to go 2-0 in the division. And we'll see what happens with JC Jackson. We'll see what happens with Keenan Allen. But make sure you're back here for that tomorrow. And to make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and follow the show for free on all platforms wherever you get your podcast from. Whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you can find us wherever, and make sure to rate and review if you like the show as well. We always appreciate that. If you want to find the show, we also post it every day to all of our social media. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Talk Sports and David Droegemeier on Twitter at DroTalkSD, and his DMs are always open. You can also find the show's page at Locked On LAC. You can find us on Instagram at Locked On Chargers and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. Thank you guys so much for all of your support on the post-game show yesterday. I mean, it was already over 5,000 as we're recording this just on YouTube. So we really appreciate that. And we're going to keep those post-game shows coming for you guys. But tomorrow is crossover Wednesday. So make sure you're back here for that. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.